Hello, my little sweet chilies. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for this video about the Magician. If you do not know what is going on here, this is the second part of a 78 video installment of my series Vibing With, where I'm basically just going to vibe with each of the 78 tarot cards. And it all began last time around with the Fool. That's where the whole thing started.
It is time.
So this is something I had been meaning to do for many a moon, and it's finally happening. I'm coming around to it. Just before we get started, I want to let you know a couple of things, okay? First of all, what I do with this video series is I basically just talk about whatever comes up in the moment. I don't have a really rigid way of approaching the cards or anything like that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the card, all right? I'm going to talk about the sort of more positive aspects or active aspects or light aspects, and then the more negative or dormant or the more shadow aspects, basically. So I cut the video down into two parts. So if you read reversals, this is the other thing I want to say. Somebody asked me in the full episode of Vibing With, what do you do about reversals? Please address reversals. It's quite simple. The shadow area of the video is mostly where you'll find the reverse definitions, okay? I don't read reversals, so I didn't think to mention that, but essentially it's very self-explanatory. The light aspect of the video and the shadow aspect of the video would pertain to the right ways up and reversed aspects of the card, okay? I like to feel into the cards intuitively rather than use reversals, but I did use reversals for a long time, and that's exactly how I would relate to a video series like this. The other thing I want to mention before I get started on this fucking fabulous card is that I am indeed myself a professional award-winning tarot reader. So if you would like to get a reading with me, the link to the store is always down below, my darlings. There are dates open at the time of me filming this for May and June. So go ahead, get yourself on my schedule. If you've never had a reading with me before, now is the time. There are fresh things in the sales section. So go right ahead, be my guest, get booked in, and I would love to work with you. Okay, so lately I've been working again, my darlings, with the Wild Unknown Tarot. Let me know down below, do you remember when this was the hottest shit on the planet? Okay, the marketing for this deck, and it's fair enough, it's justified because this is a beautiful, beautiful deck. I still love it. I still play with it regularly, and I got it many, many moons ago. But the marketing for this deck was off the fucking meter, okay? It was everywhere, and I swear that it was the deck that launched 1,000 card slingers. I think that if you were new to the game and you'd never come across it before, and this came up on your social media, or your friend was playing with it, or you saw it somewhere, or the marketing sort of approached you, you would have been like, I need that, basically. So, and I was no exception, all right? I bought it, and I have no regrets. This is the Magician from the Wild Unknown. I'm basically always just going to show you the card from the deck that is nearest to hand, basically. So this fabulous leopard in the Magician card for the Wild Unknown is absolutely beautiful, with all of those gorgeous beams of sun behind the head there. And you can see here the classic witchcraft tools, which also represent the 4 elements in tarot. So the 4 suits, your swords, pentacles, wands, and cups. It's a really beautiful depiction. I really love this particular Magician card, so I'm pleased to showcase it as the kind of basis for what we're going to be talking about with this card. So first thing I want to say about the card, the Magician, which I love so much, is the main word that comes through for me when I see this card is will. Will is the first word that comes through, quickly followed by the words power, responsibility, and manifestation. I think those are really great words to describe the vibe that is going on with the Magician. The Magician, let's say if it was to follow on from the Fool, and I don't know if I'm quite going to work the series like that with the Major Arcana, but let's say for a moment that we're following on from that sort of open, playful, naive, but very sort of like potential oriented energy of the Fool. The Magician would be where we center into the power. You know, we start to get that sense that there is something that we can do, there is something that we want to experience or build, that we can build on whatever we are in the beginning and actually start to define our skills. Okay, so that's kind of the energy with the Magician. So let's talk about some of those sort of lighter or more conscious aspects of the card. First of all, the magician has the will to do something. The magician wants to manifest something, change something, work with something so that a state of alchemy is created. The magician has some kind of vision that they want to use their power for. And I think the magician is best off seen actually as a user of magic, as a magic maker. So to me, the magician is one of the most witchy cards in the tarot deck, because you really have that angle of, okay, this is someone who's working with magic. They're working with their internal energy. They're working with that sense of spiritual energy that is both around them and within them. And they are doing that to some end. They want something. They are really pushing for something, and they're going to use their will to make that happen. So the magician has a sense of what is possible, and they want to use their will and intention to actually create that thing, to make that thing occur. So we can very much do with thinking of the magician, as a witch, as a magic maker, right? As a sorcerer, as a conjurer. The magician is a conjurer. So when you think about the magician like that, you can attach to it everything that you think of when you think of conjuring, you know, spell casting, magic making, just drawing energy in and then sending it out towards an intention. And that really gives you a firm idea of the identity of the magician and the incredible potency that is available when this card comes up. It's a big deal. It is a big deal, guys. When this card comes up, I'm very excited. No matter what the position in the spread, no matter what is going on, the magician is another one of those, like the Fool, that is a real delight to me. I just love to make their acquaintance. I think, oh, the magician is present. How wonderful. So yes, if we think about, you know, the will that comes from that internal place, the awareness that you have the power to do something, to change something, to pursue something, to bring something in, then we think about really the relationship between will and power. Okay, I have the will, I have the power. I sense that I have those skills. I sense that I have the potency to be able to make something happen. What do we need when it comes to will and power? We need responsibility. So when the magician arrives in a reading, we're thinking about a situation where you have the potency, you have the skill, you're able to create manifestation, you're able to manifest something, and there's probably that belief in manifestation, or the very beginnings, the inklings of belief in the power to manifest. And then there's also that sense of taking responsibility for that potency that is within you. You know, really sort of looking at it from an ethical standpoint, from a standpoint where your emotions are managed and you know what you want and what you don't want. You won't allow your power to be manipulated. You want it to be a force for what you really mean and for the intentions that you really deeply have. So with great power comes great responsibility, essentially. That's very much a sort of magician vibe, you know. Yes, you have the skill. Yes, you have the ability. There is something there. You have your tools gathered together. But there's also that sense that you need to be responsible with it, that you are being responsible with it, and that you have your ethical guidelines, and you have a sense of your own mind. You have a sense of what you really want to use that power for, and what would really be important, you know, what makes the most sense, rather than sort of being hoodwinked into sending your power somewhere that's not positive, or into wasting it. Essentially, it's about investment of the power versus squandering of the power. And we'll come to the squandering of the power later when we discuss the more shadow or sort of unconscious aspects of the card. The magician energy is all about that part of ourselves where we're experimenting with what we can do, and we're really discovering and figuring out just exactly how potent we can be when we put our minds to it, when we place our attention upon it, when we gather the necessary tools, and we sort of see, how far can I go with this, you know? And if I take it seriously and I really sort of put my mind to it and I send my energy towards it, what can happen? So there is, again, as with the Fool, that curiosity, that desire to experiment. But there's also that real sense of like, I have a power within me. Like, I get to make decisions. I get to decide what's what. I get to choose the path for my life. So the magician is delightful in the sense that there is that playfulness and that feeling of, you know, what can I do and what can I make happen, and the curiosity, the inquisitiveness of that. But there is also that seriousness and that gravitas to the magician, because you're really figuring out that, like, oh wow, I can contribute something to this reality. I don't just need to work on my animal instinct and responding to what's happening to me. I can make things happen. I can do something, and it can be my work, and I can take credit for it, and it can be my responsibility. And so I need to deal with that power. I need to own that power. And so there's a lot of excitement and a lot of fizziness in the Magician. And that's one thing that I really love about this card, is it's that sense of like, I can and I will, and so I'm going to, you know. So there is sort of like owning your power for yourself, and feeling that you are ready to embrace that, and you're willing to see where it can go and what can be done. The Magician is a card of possibility, you know, and the possibility is around your skill set. It's around what you can actually develop, how you can progress, how you can show yourself what it is that is really within your domain. It's within your ability to control or to transform or to understand, you know, because I do think of the Magician as not only a magic maker, but also an enthusiastic student. I think that those tools that the Magician has are tools that they are kind of like, they're learning and they're coming to understand on a deeper level. So yes, the Magician, when you meet the Magician in a reading, it might be a representation of some degree of skill, certainly, definitely. Sometimes the Magician can be about the way that you have honed and adapted to and deeply come to understand the tools that you have, you know, your power, your skill, your personality traits, and your ability to work with the energy and to use your insight and use your imagination. But I also think the Magician can come along when we're in training, when we're picking up tools that might still be a bit clunky to us and a bit confusing, but we're steadfast in our willingness to understand more deeply, and then to apply that understanding in accordance with our will, whatever our will is. The Magician has such a potential for self-mastery. I think of the Magician as such a symbol of self-mastery in tarot, and that's something that's very exciting about the card. And the Magician is also working with this awareness that there are energies that can be aligned with them, or there are energies that can be brought into control, in a sense. Like the sense of tools is not just like physically, what are the tools of my art format, or what are the tools of my career path, or what are the tools in terms of personality traits, you know, am I steadfast, am I enduring, am I intelligent, am I whatever. The tools are also ethereal, they are spiritual tools. There is the sense that like there are things happening in the universe, there's understandings on a spiritual level that I can utilize for my gain. So it's a very exciting card when it comes up, and I do think that the Magician, of course, has a big connection to the realm of creativity, the realm of the imagination. The Magician has to really envision what they would like to do, and also, more importantly, to envision the notion that they can achieve it. They have to really see in the sort of on the path of self-belief a future where they have done something. So they have to believe in their ability to do it. I think that belief is such a vital tool whenever we're trying to manifest something. But I think belief is even more vital, of course, when it comes to the belief in our ability to manifest at all. You know, many witches, for example, many artists, for example, won't try something, won't get started with something because they haven't really envisioned that they can do it. It's not that they haven't envisioned what they would do. It's that they first of all haven't envisioned that it can be done, and it can be done by them. And so the Magician is also about self-belief. It's about really like owning that I can do something, me, myself, and I can do something. So with all of this wonderment with the Magician, my darlings, what could the shadow aspects of this card possibly be? Well, I can think of a few. Okay, first of all, power is not always used for good, of course. Sometimes the Magician can be a shady motherfucker, all right? Sometimes the Magician is that part of us or someone else, or of a situation in general, in energy in general, where power is being used and aligned in ways that are unhealthy, in ways that are manipulative, and manipulation is a really big shadow word for the Magician. So definitely, if you're looking for the more shadow aspects, note that down. With the power that has been sort of realized within the Magician can also be this sense that like, I'm going to use this to mess with things. I'm going to use this to see what I can get from situations without considering others. I'm going to use this in a way that is actually reckless. It's irresponsible. It could even be immoral. And I have no qualms about that. So the Magician can be quite self-interested in a sense, and the Magician can be a force of danger, or indeed of self-endangerment. So yes, definitely there can be that aspect. If you think about anything that you imagine that a naughty wizard would get up to, right? Just kind of like messing with people, or using their power in ways that are unfair on others, or that might even be detrimental or destructive to the self. That's definitely a big shadow aspect of the Magician. I tell you what, I would like the magician to turn up right now and make that dog be quiet. Every single night without fail, they let their dog out to bark in the back garden for a full hour, and I just don't understand why. But anyway, on we go, because I don't have time to wait to film this later. I have a gym appointment, okay? Because I would like to channel my magician energy into gym usage this evening. I want to use my magician energy to like get guns, all right? Okay, if you think about things that are related to the misuse of power, you can think about things like arrogance, self-aggrandizement, empty celebrity, or wanting to sort of put yourself on show or put yourself to the front for the wrong reasons. Those things can all be a part of the more shadow nature of the magician. And if you also think about other things that are related to the shadow of power, you can think about the idea that sometimes a more sort of like a less conscious or a more dormant magician energy, if you will, can be related to not realizing how much power you have, you know? Or indeed having your power sources manipulated to fuel the intentions and the desires of others because you yourself haven't figured out what your will is yet. And so your power is open to being manipulated or used by others for their gain. A magician in their vulnerability, for example, would be a great artist who is sort of like not really aware of what it is they want to create or what they want to do. And they get picked up by a greedy, shady manager who encourages them down all sorts of pathways that are not good for them and are not a true celebration of their power. So it's really also about power that can be open to manipulation by others. So all of these things under that realm of power in the shadow can be related to the magician. When the magician comes up in a reading and it's supposed to represent a more difficult or shadow type of energy, it can often be a symbol for the querent that they're not realizing what they have the potential to do. They're not being able to see it. So they're not seeing within themselves that magician archetype and everything that it's capable of, and all of the skill that is inherent and that can be honed, but is actually innate, you know? So, you know, very often the magician can represent, if it's coming up in that more shadow energy, the lack of ability to be able to really believe that one has power and that one has agency as well. So, you know, that can be a part of it as well. The magician can be irresponsible with the nature of the skills that they have. A magician can be wayward or indeed sort of like not have a strong idea of what they want to use their power for. And they might be channeling their imagination and their creativity into things that are destructive or that are kind of going nowhere or that are ultimately harmful. So yeah, there is still that potency, but it's about misused potency, underdeveloped potency, or potency that is not recognized, it's not witnessed by the self. So those can be some of the more sort of shadow natures of the magician for sure. The magician can also be that part of us that finds it difficult to witness and recognize that just because we have will and we have intention and we want to use our power doesn't mean that we're always going to be able to win. It doesn't mean that we're going to be able to get our idea of what we want to have happen over the finish line and into reality. You know, a shadow magician energy is one whereby we find it difficult to accept that we are co-creators, that we are sometimes doing battle with other energies or other will, you know, that is going to be stronger in certain situations. It's going to have the upper hand. We might circumstantially be at a loss, you know, we might be on the losing end of something. We might not always receive something into manifestation in the package that we ordered it in, if you will. We have to take some losses. We have to accept some disappointments. We have to realize that even though we can build agency and have self-mastery, it doesn't mean that other people aren't also trying to do the same. So it can be a card of disappointment when it comes up with that kind of energy to it, whereby we really have this strong feeling that we're focused on our will and intention. And it can be really hard when things get in the way. And the magician does not like anything getting in the way. The magician wants to really go for what they want to manifest. And so it can be really difficult when they find that they're doing battle with variables that are beyond their control, forces of chaos, death, destruction, randomness, you know, that come in and kind of mess with things. So you might say that the magician has the responsibility to be real about what's real. And when the magician is operating in their shadow nature, they're finding it very difficult to do that. They want everything their way, okay? It's their way or the fucking highway. And it can be very difficult when actually it's the highway. And they're like, oh shit, that's painful, that hurts, you know? I had something I wanted to make happen. And then the magician can fall into lack of self-belief or lack of desire to try anymore. And that can lead to things like apathy and skepticism, and the magician energy within us going dormant, you know, hiding away, becoming reclusive. Like we had this imaginative or energetic burst, but then something went wrong. We tried it and it failed. We didn't get into the art school. The business didn't launch the way we wanted to. And so we swallow our magician energy down. That can definitely be a shadow of this card. This notion that we have to allow our magician energy to come above the surface again, you know, to put its head above again and say, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to step back into my power, even though I was disappointed, even though the spell that I wanted for my life didn't come to fruition. I'm willing to keep trying. So sometimes the magician energy can be that part of us that throws the tools aside. You know, we've been trying, we've been learning, we've been developing skill, we've been connecting to our will, and something went wrong, something disappointed us. So fuck it, you know, I'm just going to have a tantrum about it. And then we have to sort of redevelop that part of us inside. The magician can come up for people who weren't encouraged in their artistry or in their brilliance. They were never told when they were growing up, for example, what their skills were, and they weren't encouraged either because of parentage or because of circumstances in life to hone those skills and to really believe in themselves. And so sometimes the magician can come up to hold a mirror up to that archetype inside of you and encourage you gently to really reach down and pull that part of you out and witness that you are a reflection of it, that it is innate within you. You do have access to it. So the magician can be kind of, you know, difficult with that shadow work aspect for sure. This card definitely has kind of a trickster element, you know, definitely a little bit of a snake oil salesman kind of element to it. You know, that can for sure be a shadow of this card. The magician is always sort of enrapturing and intoxicating, but should they always be trusted, you know? So that can definitely be something that comes up in readings as well as a shadow nature of the magician. It's just this notion that everything is not always what it seems. All that glitters is not always gold, and that sometimes we have to look at an opportunity or a relationship or a dynamic between people or whatever and be like, is this opportunity everything it's cracked up to be? Is it really what it looks to be on the surface? Or am I just very impressed by the showmanship of this person or the initial magical vibe of this relationship, but really I need to be steadfast in being healthy for me. And again, being real about what's real, you know, witnessing that sometimes the magician can be dazzling, and sometimes what's dazzling is not actually a firework display. It's a fucking trash fire, and we need to step away from it. So when the magician comes up in that kind of role, it can be about just saying, you know what, hold your horses, just wait a second. Not everything is as it is on paper. Not everything is as it looks in the beginning. And sometimes we need to read the fine print before we go ahead with something. I think the magician can also be representative of a creative restlessness, you know, someone who has a lot of potency balled up inside them, but they're not really sure what they want to do with it. They really don't know if they can choose a particular quest, you know. They may have lost the connection to that sense of insight, or indeed to that sense of the energies around them and how they can be brought to bear in the interest of manifesting something. So they know that they have that magician energy, or that the situation has some intrinsic magician energy to it, but they don't know quite how they want to go about things yet. So it can be sort of a stumbling magician in a way, a magician that has not really gotten a sense of what they want to have happen, and therefore their will is strong, but what do they want to direct it towards? And so it can be sort of like a lost, flailing, floundering magician who knows that they have the tools and they know they have the insight, but they're just not really sure how they want to shape it and polish it and hone it and craft it just yet. So it can sometimes be a card that has to do with that like frustrated build up of fizz that they just want to like allow to pop, but they're not really sure like to what end, essentially. One final thing I want to say about the more shadow aspect of this card is that very often when the magician comes up, we do see a very proud, very sort of like illustrious looking figure most of the time. Now with the magician in World Unknown Tarot, you can see that this is someone with a special glow, you know, this is a figure being illuminated from behind and from within. And so it's very powerful. A lot of magician cards in tarot decks feel as though the magician is doing a demonstration. So there's a table in front of them and they're kind of standing with their wand aloft and they have the other tools on the table. And it really feels as though, like certainly with Rider-Waite-Smith and decks that are sort of connected to that type of imagery that take that template, you almost feel with that kind of imagery that you're sitting in front of the magician and the magician is giving a lecture or doing a show of some kind. So that showmanship aspect comes back in. And when we look at the card in shadow, it's not so much about like confidence, which I think can be part of the lighter aspect or the positive aspect, the active form. But let's say we go into the sort of shadowy form or the undeveloped form. We're looking at something like wanting to be seen and known as a certain thing, wanting to project forth something about yourself in rather a showy kind of way. And therefore, I think that the magician in the shadow aspect can be linked to egoic harm, or a feeling that the ego wants to be fed by the sense of what others think. So I do think of the magician as rather an outward projecting force in tarot. And I know that this is something that is not as common of a thing to consider. But for me, when I see the magician come up, sometimes I think, okay, maybe this is about how one wants to be seen, how one wants to present to the world. And again, if we think about that connection between the fool and the magician, the fool, I think, would be an egoless form, even sometimes to their detriment, but certainly they're not thinking about what others are thinking or what others are doing, right? The magician is the first sense in the major arcana of what others think of us, what we want them to think of us, how we might want to change what they think of us. So there is a glamour aspect to the magician. And if we look at that in the not so positive light, it can be about like, how have you felt that your ego has been hurt? How have you felt that you've looked a fool in front of others? Oh, there we go, that connection again. How is it that you are trying to be perceived, and how might that be to your detriment because you're worried too much about what others think of you, how you come across, the kind of show you're putting on, the kind of persona that you have in front of others, and how is that holding you back from the real work and the real joy that you could experience in your life? My darlings, this has been Vibing with the Magician. You have been a great audience, and I have been your very humble card-slinging host, Kellyanne Maddox, Kellyanne Mad Dog Maddox. Thank you so much for joining me for the Vibing with series. I'm super excited about it. Again, if you want a reading, go and grab something from me. I also do spiritual counselling. I'm a qualified spiritual counsellor since 2013 now, if you can believe that. So yeah, you know, I have my paperwork and all that shit. And so I really love doing that. I do witchy mentoring. I do all that stuff, babes. I have a Patreon. It's fucking amazing. Okay. It's the only Patreon I know of in the witchy or spirituality realm that has its own official DJ. All right. Okay. So if you're in the Pop-Tarts tier, you know what I mean by that. We have an official DJ and he is on fire. All right. The beats are cold. The vibes are high. Come on over. Check it all out. There's so much going on Patreon. Thank you so much, my darlings. And until the next installment, much love and blessed be. Keep card slinging, my babies. Mwah.
To waste my